looking at the agenda, we have we have Quincy. So we have Quincy, and we have a potential raise. Okay, so first of all, the Quincy release is going to be not completely imminent, but we have to wrap up Quincy. And we've discussed it last week, so there isn't too much that we really have to care at this point. It's mostly that we should be aware that we by now have a dedicated Quincy branch, so we have to make sure that we are properly backporting to Quincy at this point. If there is something worth backporting, which I think every bug fix and every feature at this point is going to be worth backporting to Quincy. And as always, my idea is to propose we're doing batch backports again. I did a bunch of individual backports to Pacific today and yesterday, and my experience doing it, or I think it was last week already. My experience or my take on it is that we should avoid individual backports by all means because it's creating a ton of extra work. Any thoughts, Adam, maybe, or Mike?
Yeah, I prefer the batches. Even having 10 pull requests open at once, it just is a lot of noise. You have to make sure you go and approve all of them and put the test tags on all of them and everything compared to just one.
Yep. And actually, the biggest pain point I discovered is that we are going to merge the backports in a different order than they are in the master branch. Which means that at this point, there is no way to properly sync up master and Pacific anymore. Because it's going to it's going to create a ton of extra conflicts. And yeah, I would continue with batch backports. Anyone against batch backports for Ceph ADM at this point? Mike, any thoughts?
No, I'm all for it. It's worked well for us in the past. We've avoided a lot of conflicts because of
Yes.
grouping them together. So
Yes.
good idea.
Yes. Okay. I think the most impressive batch backport was about 150 commits or so, and maybe 2 conflicts. That was really impressive. Okay, let's continue with batch backports. Pacific. We are still need to backport the agent to Pacific. Adam.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things left open, and then we can start working on the backport. So those are gonna have to get. So can we just backport to Quincy and Pacific at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Even though I wouldn't create an extra agent backport to Quincy because the Quincy already contains the agent. So
I just mean for the 2 changes that are left, having the merge master.
Yeah. But Pacific is going to be a bit more work because you have to resolve non-trivial merge conflicts.
Yeah, there'll be a lot. Again, once those 2 changes are in, it's probably take a few days to get that working.
Yep. So we really have to hurry up getting the 2 remaining issues into Pacific. What exactly is missing?
You'll find the names. So I know there's one for using its own cache object, overflowing the cache size, and what was the other one? Did that one already get merged in actually? Okay, I think you merged it in an hour ago, the other one. So it's just the one.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay,
think you reviewed it as well. I think I have to just go look at it and get a chance.
great. Okay, that's for Pacific. Anything else we have to look into for Pacific at this time? I did a bunch of individual Pacific backports, as I mentioned a few seconds ago, and it was a pain. It was so painful. Mm. Okay. The next topic that I have on my list is the race in the Ceph loop against other things happening in different threads, changing the data structures. Mike, I guess you have investigated this a bit, right?
I've casually looked at it. I can't find a root cause. One of the things that I've speculated when I've seen this is people are doing some of the synchronous commands when the servlet is blocked doing something else. Like, so for example, Ceph daemon add or something like this, async to the servlet being stuck somewhere else, which then has the result of adding things to the host cache that maybe should not be there, such as like a daemon that's in a strange state. But you have to be able to reproduce it. There's like a very narrow timing window in there.
So yeah, as far as I know, I have created at least 2 pull requests trying to fix individual races. The problem, I think the main problem we are facing is that the Ceph loop itself is really dependent on having the order as it defined in the Ceph loop. So first we are refreshing the host and the daemons. We're getting the status of all the daemons, and then we are deleting stray daemons, and then we are deleting OSDs, and then we are creating new daemons based on the server specs, and then we are checking all daemons if they need to be reconfigured, for example. And it looks like if we are changing the data structures in a way that's unexpected to the Ceph loop, we are creating weird side effects. One pull request I made a year ago was that we are sometimes creating 3 or 1 additional co-located monitor on the local Bootstrap host. If we are, as I said, the host add command was racing with a service edition. So we created. So first we can actually share my screen. Here, can you actually see that? Can you see that? Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so one race I found a year ago was that this line didn't discover any daemons on the local bootstrap host because at that point the local bootstrap host wasn't added to the Ceph ADM Manager module, and then in between those lines, the local bootstrap host was added, and then apply our services added another manager on the bootstrap host in addition to the bootstrap manager. So we ended up with two co-located managers by accident. We fixed it by making sure we have checked the host daemons before applying services on a given host. So that was a workaround for this particular thing. The next one was a pull request that was a race between NFS migrations. Let me try to find it. So this block was missing. So we are renaming the server spec file, but we didn't remove the old daemons. So when migrating the NFS servers in that particular upgrade step, that meant we first there is a possibility that we first deployed new NFS Ganesha daemons, and then in the next iteration we deleted the old NFS Ganesha daemons, which didn't work because we now ended up with a port conflict between the old servers and the new servers. So in general, everything worked because we first deleted the old stray daemons and then created the new daemons. But if we are racing with a Ceph loop, we're creating the new NFS Ganesha daemons before deleting the old Ganesha daemons. So what do we want to do about this one, about this race that we have in Ceph ADM? Any thoughts?
For that one you were just talking about, would it always do that? Because it looked like if you're going to migrate, then we apply services every time.
Yeah, I fixed this particular race by manually deleting the old daemons here. I'm deleting the old NFS daemons.
I was just wondering, was this actually like a race that happens sometimes, or it seems like it should happen every single time?
No, it only happens sometimes because it depends on where we are in the Ceph loop.
I just thought it would always go like, so you delete the stray demons, then you go to migrates, but the stray demons aren't stray yet because you haven't done the migration. You do the
No,
migration, then you
exactly.
always
The migration happens in parallel with the Ceph loop.
Oh, it does. I didn't realize it was its own thread.
No, it's a different thread, yeah. Oh, it might end up in a different thread. Exactly. So we ended up doing the migration in between those lines here before deleting the old daemons and creating the old daemons. And if we do that, we're creating the new NFS daemons before deleting the old daemons, ending up in a port conflict. I resolved this particular race. The problem is The problem is, can we do something in general to avoid this race in all circumstances? Or do we need to? Or can we just live with this race and just make sure that the Ceph loop is able to cope with things?
I mean, most of our synchronous actions I don't think would do anything that would cause issues. I don't know. It feels like if this all happens in the right. I'm not sure how the threading works with the serve loop. I thought we always did all these things in order.
We do, but only in the Ceph loop. Some operations are in a different thread, like the migrations might end up in a different thread. The adding hosts, removing hosts might end up in a different thread. Applying new specs might end up in a different thread.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think what we could do. The migration, we'd have to think if we really wanted to make sure it would never have any issues, we think we'd have to just almost do it as part of the server loop rather than have it be in its own thread. Be slower. But if you're really worried about it, we could do that. For the synchronous stuff, I feel like if we really wanted it to never have any race conditions, we'd have to almost like whenever someone like adds something in a spec or a scheduled an action or anything, we'd have to almost cache it somewhere. And then like the end of the serve loop, we actually take them and put them into the real data structures. But again, it sounds like something kind of annoying to do, and I'm not sure how often these things are going to come up. It's worth doing.
What's up with the agent? The agent is also working in a different thread.
Yeah, so the agent there's only one data structure it's really updating, and that's just the daemon cache. But we get around that by having that like host metadata up to date check. And so we never apply services if that check doesn't pass. And so the way it works is that every time we apply a service and we say we're going to add or remove a daemon from a host, we mark the metadata as not up to date anymore. And then it's considered not up to date until the agent replies with more metadata that includes the correct like counter value.
No, okay, so we have kind of resolved this particular race, at least from the agent side, with that metadata up to date flag.
Yeah.
Can we do that also for the other operations like from the CLI?
I mean, theoretically, we could, if somebody applied a spec, mark all the hosts as not up to date anymore, and require getting metadata again before we apply anything. That would guarantee refreshing daemons essentially happens before applying specs. We could do the same thing with scheduled actions as well. We could mark that particular host as not up to date if we really wanted to. Again, that would just basically enforce refreshing daemons always before doing anything else on the host.
Sounds like a good idea. Mike?
I was trying to think, would that have an impact on scalability? No,
Can't
it
hear
kind
you.
of sounds like a global lock around the entire data structure in that sense.
Am I the only one who can't hear Mike?
I can hear him. The audio quality is kind of low.
Oh, I said that it sounds like a global lock around the data structure.
Is it me again?
Oh, you cannot hear him at all?
Maybe. Am I audible?
I can hear you, Mike.
Yes, I can hear you.
I can hear him. I can hear Mike as well.
This is Sebastian.
But in essence, yeah, I think it's a global lock. So I wonder what that would do to scalability in essence. Like slow things down and reduce the benefit that we're gaining from the agent? I don't know.
I mean, right now the agent's the only one who is using it. Like we just skip it otherwise. I'm trying to think where we would have to add that in and what effects it would actually have. Because it would just be for scheduled daemon actions and applying services. But when the agent's active, applying services already does it anyway.
Right. Yeah. And is this per host? Like, what's the granularity of this?
Yeah, it can be done per host. So the way it works right now is it gets set to like false whenever we create or remove a daemon on a host. Then that particular host metadata is marked out of date. It was really only intended for fixing the applying specs. If anyone want to like double place daemons.
Yeah.
So it gets marked false whenever we put or remove a daemon, and then we update the counter value, and then we don't mark it back up to date until we get new metadata with the right counter value.
Seems like it's worth a try to me. Yeah. I mean, one of the other things I've seen is if you kind of pound the scheduled actions over and over, like say a redeploy or a restart, and you queue a whole bunch up, you can confuse the scheduled actions in a way that the servlet's broken as well. And the fix for something like that is drop the host cache. So putting a lock around the host cache sounds like the right thing to me.
I mean, I guess I kind of like want to see the actual effects talking about. I guess I'm kind of confused how this works with scheduling actions causing issues.
Mm-hmm.
That was one I didn't think would be a problem, just because like you just schedule them, then at the end the server was one responsible for actually doing anything. What is actually happening when people are scheduling these at weird times?
Another crazy idea, maybe. What if we do not start any daemon in a host if we see that there is a daemon of the same type for the same service? But
So,
another version.
you mean if there's another daemon on that host that's the same type, you don't put a daemon there?
Yes,
It's kind of hard. It works. Like the issue we're running into is that we don't know the daemon's there yet, and we tried it. We think that we are putting the first one down, but it's actually the second one.
Yes, but in one moment you are telling start this daemon in this host. Okay. In one moment we are issuing this command. So in that moment, if we check that we have another daemon from a previous version in the same host from the same service, we need. I think that we can stop and do not launch the new daemon. This is going. To, yes.
You want the deploy command itself to check for daemons?
It's in the moment that we are going to start the daemon. When we are going to, in the moment that you have make all the checks, okay, in the same moment that you want to start the new daemon, is the moment that we need to check if there is another daemon of a previous version for the same service running. And if this happens, we can abort the start. Probably we will need more information about the daemon, okay, that is running about versions, or get this information directly from the daemon. I don't know how to do that, but in this way we avoid to rely in any kind of data structure in the cache or in any other place. So it's in the moment that you are going to start the daemon in the host, is the moment that you are doing the check.
That would enforce it being synchronous, I guess. I think it's just implementation wise. I'm not sure how to do it.
The thing is that in that moment you need to get information about the container that is running, what is the service that that belongs the container, and what is the version of the daemon that is running. This in real time, just in the moment that you are going to start the daemon. I think that this is the more difficult part. Probably we will need to add more labels to the containers. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what are the labels that we have in the containers.
Because that information sounds like it's almost exactly what our LS is, but we don't want to run that every single time we want to place a daemon just because it's so slow.
Yep. The problem is that we can't do that, right? Because that would be too slow. And this is why we are adding the agent in order to push information to the manager module asynchronously. But now, as a side effect, we are having to deal with possible inconsistencies between the data we are having and the real world. And I think the way Adam, you fixed it in the agent with the metadata up to date flag is a good idea that you should leverage more often also in the non-agent cases, because I think it's an easy way to avoid this particular problem. Given that the Ceph monitor key value store, the key store, doesn't have resource IDs. I mean, if we could get a resource version of a particular time, then we could just get a consistent snapshot, right? But we are not going to have it. We have to deal with the fact that new updates to our data structures are overriding existing values, and we have to be aware that this is racing.
I almost feel like a takeaway is that it might not be totally possible to just 100% eliminate these things, but I have to try to cover the cases as they go and do stuff like this where we try to make sure things are up to date before we take actions.
Yep.
There's one other thing we had to consider, like so that RBD issue I found where Ceph volume hangs. What if we acquire this and the thread never comes back? Has the potential to hang everything up too.
We cannot kill threads.
And this came back to, I know when we discussed this on Wednesday in the stand-up, we had some ideas. I think we were talking about like timeouts and like watchdog threads or something.
We cannot kill threads.
Yeah.
The problem is that if you're killing a thread, you're not cleaning up logs. You're not cleaning up semaphores, which means as soon as you're killing a thread, your application is prone to deadlocks.
One of the ideas we had was because all these places where it's getting stuck seem to be in the middle of these SSH commands. Right now, the SSH run commands don't have any timeout. So if they hang forever. If we should try to implement a timeout system, but we never got anywhere with the discussion, I don't think, because it's sort of tricky to come up with good timeouts because you can't make them really small because there are certain commands that are slow, like a deploy command that has to also pull an image. It's going to take a while. But if you make it too long, then you wait for 20 minutes, then it runs to the servlet one more time, then it gets stuck again. So I mean, you could raise a health warning at that point at least, but it's so slow still. So there's no exclusions or anything.
One long-term solution would be to make use of the agent more often. Right? Don't try to really avoid synchronously downloading the container image. When doing SSH operations. Does it work? Is that an idea, Adam?
Yeah, it would take a while to get to there, but I mean it could be maybe a potential long-term solution. I think in the short term, it still is probably worth having some timeout, like a really long one maybe, and just raise a health warning so people know, instead of just the servlet hanging forever. In the long term, maybe go with that.
Okay. Back in the Open Attic days, 5 years ago, we had that same problem with the Rados commands never coming back. And we solved it by spawning new Linux processes for every Rados command we created. Because we weren't sure, or there was no way we could reliably kill Rados commands in Open Attic. And I fear we are having the same issue with hanging SSH commands. If we can't find a way to have a supported way to abort SSH commands, there is no way we can properly terminating SSH connections, except for creating physical Linux processes for every SSH for every Linux SSH, for every established SSH connection. And that's going to be super resource intensive. Okay. Anything else to that particular topic? Okay. I have one more thing to do, and that's announcing that I'm going to leave Red Hat by the end of January. So this is going to be my second last Orchestrator Weekly. Yeah.
Sorry, Sebastian. Next week you are not going to be with us?
Next week I'm going to be here. But next week is going to be my last Orchestrator Weekly. Yeah. Anything else for today?
One thing, I just wanted to clarify, because I know we talked with Mike about this on Thursday. This HA proxy image for our upstream CI, like you said, we were actually mirroring that somewhere.
Yes. There is a Docker cache, Docker registry cache. We have an upstream Zapier because the problem is that upstream Zapier is downloading orders of magnitudes more images than the Docker container Docker registry allows us to. So we have to have a proxy registry for Docker.io and upstream Zapier, and we're doing it. David owns it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where they were. If 'cause I was just asking because the OpenStack team is still looking for those containers, like where they pulled them from, because they still have been pulling the Docker ones, and their CI is breaking with the rate limits.
Yep.
But I guess they can't use that one.
No, it's internal to upstream Zapier, unfortunately.
I think Guillaume might was saying maybe you could mirror them the Quay. HA proxy keep alive images. You might have to go with that route.
Maybe even sync up with David Galloway. Maybe he has a better idea.
Okay, I did ask the OpenStack team to send him a message. I think they did send an email last week, but I don't remember if they included him in it. I can ask them.
Okay.
That's it.
And Adam, you're going to take over this Orchestrator weekly meeting?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Anything else? Anything else for today? Have a great week. And let's sync up next week.